The desert sprawled out like a crumpled blanket beneath a moonless Nevada sky. A vast void that devoured sound and light in equal measure. Ryan Kessler's boots scraped against the gravel as he adjusted the straps of his backpack, the hidden recorder digging into his ribs like a silent warning. He wasn't supposed to be here. No one was. 3 months ago, he'd been an NSA analyst, hunched over a desk in a windowless office, sifting through encrypted chatter. Then came the email unsigned, untraceable, a single line burned into his mind. Patel's army is real. Find the camp before it's too late. Ryan wasn't a soldier or a spy. He was a whistleblower, a man who'd seen too much and couldn't look away. Now, he was chasing shadows in the desolate stretch of Nevada's backcountry, hunting a rumor that refused to die. The air was bone dry, but a faint hum clung to it, low and insistent, pulsing through the earth like a living thing. He'd read about unexplained sounds before the Tao's hum, a mystery some tied to secret bases, but this was sharper, mechanical, like the growl of a machine buried deep underground. Ahead, a flicker of light broke the darkness, faint and fleeting, like a lantern swaying in the wind. Ryan crouched low, his breath shallow, and pulled a pair of binoculars from his pack. Through the lenses, the flicker grew into a cluster of shapes: tents, vehicles, a perimeter fence glinting under floodlights, a camp hidden in plain sight, nestled in the shadow of jagged hills. His pulse quickened. This was it. Ryan had first heard Kash Patel's name years ago, whispered in hushed tones among colleagues. A former prosecutor turned intelligence operative, Patel had climbed the ranks during Donald Trump's presidency, a loyalist who'd worked in the shadows of the National Security Council and the Pentagon. The official story painted him as a patriot, a man who'd fought to expose corruption. But the rumors told a darker tale. Patel was the architect of something bigger, a clandestine force loyal to Trump, poised to rewrite the rules of power. Ryan hadn't believed it, not until he'd cracked a file labeled Eagle Protocol. Buried in layers of code were references to a paramilitary group, training sites, and a single directive: secure the Republic. Patel's signature was all over it, digital fingerprints on a plan too wild to be real. Or so he'd thought. The camp loomed closer as Ryan crept forward, the hum growing louder, vibrating in his chest. He slipped behind a boulder, peering at the figures moving within the perimeter. Men in black fatigues patrolled with rifles slung across their backs, their movements precise, almost robotic. But something was off. Their faces lit briefly by the floodlights were blank, eyes glassy, like mannequins brought to life. Ryan's stomach twisted. He'd expected mercenaries, maybe ex-soldiers, not this, whatever this was. He pulled out his recorder, thumbed the switch, and whispered, November 3rd, 2025. Nevada desert, undisclosed location. I've found the camp. They're not normal. Something's wrong here. A rustle behind him made him freeze. He turned, heart hammering, but it was just a lizard skittering across the sand. Still, the unease lingered. He'd covered his tracks, ditched his phone, used cash, taken back roads, but the email had warned him, they'll know you're coming. Who were they? Patel's people? The government? Or something worse? Ryan shook it off and refocused. He needed evidence photos, audio, anything to blow this wide open. He edged closer, the fence now just yards away, its barbed wire glinting like teeth. The hum spiked, a sound so sharp it made his teeth ache. Then came the voices low, rhythmic, chanting something he couldn't make out. Ryan pressed himself against the sand, peering through a gap in the fence. In the center of the camp stood a tall figure, silhouetted against a massive antenna array that stretched into the sky like a skeletal hand. The figure turned, and even from a distance Ryan recognized the angular jaw, the slicked-back hair. Kash Patel. He was real, and he was here. Patel raised a hand, and the chanting stopped. The soldiers, or whatever they were, snapped to attention, their heads tilting in unison. Ryan's recorder trembled in his grip as he murmured, "Patel's in command. This isn't a drill." Patel's voice cut through the night, calm but commanding. "The time is near. The Republic hangs by a thread. They think they've won, but we're the reckoning." A murmur rippled through the ranks, not of excitement, but of something mechanical, a synchronized hum from dozens of throats. Ryan's skin crawled. These weren't men, they were drones, programmed, controlled. Patel paced, his shadow stretching across the sand. The eagle rises again. He's watching. He's waiting. Ryan's mind raced. He! Who else could it be? Donald Trump's face flashed in his thoughts, older now, but still the brash figure who dominated headlines even after leaving office. Was this his play? A shadow army to reclaim power? Ryan fumbled for his camera, snapping shaky shots of the scene. The antenna array pulsed with light, blue arcs crackling along its spires, and the air grew heavy, thick with static. He'd seen reports of HARP-like tech, conspiracy threads about weather control and mind manipulation, but this was real, tangible, right in front of him. A soldier turned his way, head cocking like a predator catching a scent. Ryan ducked, his breath catching, but it was too late. A spotlight blazed to life, pinning him against the sand. "Intruder!" a voice barked, flat and emotionless. Boots pounded the ground, closing in. He ran. The desert blurred around him, thorns tearing at his jeans, the hum chasing him like a living thing. Shots rang out sharp cracks that echoed off the hills, but they weren't bullets, not exactly. Something whizzed past his ear, a dart that glowed faintly before embedding in a cactus. Tranquilizers? He didn't stop to find out. His jeep was a mile back, hidden behind a ridge, but his legs burned and the camp's lights grew brighter, not fainter. They were gaining. A figure loomed ahead, blocking his path, tall, broad, dressed in black. Ryan skidded, raising his fists, but the man didn't move. His eyes glowed faintly, a dull amber, and his voice was a monotone rasp. "You can't leave." Ryan swung, his knuckles cracking against the man's jaw, but it was like hitting steel. The soldier didn't flinch, just grabbed Ryan's arm and twisted, forcing him to his knees. Pain shot through him, but he bit it back, glaring up. "What are you?" he spat. The soldier's head tilted, a faint whirring sound escaping his throat. "We are the future," he said, and then everything went black. He woke to the smell of antiseptic, and the hum louder now, drilling into his skull. His wrists were bound, strapped to a metal chair in a room with no windows, just grey walls and a single flickering bulb. Across from him sat Kash Patel, legs crossed, a tablet in his lap. He looked older than the photos, hair thinning, lines etched deep, but his eyes were sharp, predatory. "Ryan Kessler," he said, voice smooth as oil. "You're a long way from Langley." Ryan's mouth was dry, but he forced the words out. "What is this? What are you doing out here?" Patel smiled, a thin, cold curve. "You're the one breaking in. Maybe send Sormalus, and what are you doing here?" He tapped the tablet, and a grainy photo of Ryan flashed up his NSA ID, stamped, terminated. "You're a ghost now. No one's looking for you." "Convenient, isn't it?" Ryan strained against the straps, the recorder still tucked against his chest. If it was still recording, he had a chance. "I know about Eagle Protocol," he said, bluffing half the truth. "The army? The tech, what are they? Drones? Clones?" Patel's smile faded, replaced by a flicker of annoyance. "You think you've got it figured out? Cute. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. They're not drones. They're patriots. Enhanced, disciplined, loyal. Everything this country's lost. Enhanced how? Ryan pressed, his pulse racing. Patel stood, pacing the small room. The mind's a messy thing, Kessler. Doubt, fear, rebellion. It's all noise. We've cleaned it out. Focused them. One purpose, one will. Ryan's stomach dropped. Mind control, he whispered. Patel stopped, turning sharply. Control's a crude word. Liberation's better. They don't question. They don't falter. They serve. And who do they serve? Ryan asked, though he already knew. Patel's eyes glinted. The man who saw it all coming. The one they laughed at, mocked, tried to bury. He's still here, Kessler. Watching. Ryan's throat tightened. Trump. Patel didn't confirm it, didn't need to. The silence was answer enough. The door hissed open, and two of the blank-faced soldiers stepped in, dragging a metal case. Patel nodded, and they opened it, revealing a tangle of wires and a helmet-like device studded with electrodes. You're a problem, Kessler, Patel said, almost regretfully. But problems can be fixed. Ryan thrashed, the chair creaking under him. You're insane. You can't... His words cut off as a soldier grabbed his head, forcing the helmet down. Needles pricked his scalp, and the hum surged, drowning his thoughts. He fought it, clawing at memories, his sister's laugh, the smell of rain, anything to stay himself. But the hum was relentless, a tide washing over him, smoothing the edges of his fear. Patel's voice floated through the haze. You'll see it our way soon. The Republic needs men like you. Ryan's vision blurred, but a spark of defiance flared. The recorder. If he could get it out, if someone found it. Hours or days later, he woke in the desert, unbound, alone. The camp was gone, the sand unmarked, as if it had never been. His backpack lay beside him, torn open, the recorder missing. Panic clawed at him, but something else was wrong. His mind felt quiet. Too quiet. He stumbled to his jeep, the keys still in the ignition, and drove, the hum a faint echo in his skull. Back in civilization, he tried to write it down, to call someone, anyone. But the words wouldn't come. His hands shook, and every time he thought of Patel, a calm washed over him, unbidden, unnatural. He'd escaped, or had he? The news flickered on in a diner TV, Donald Trump grinning at a rally, promising a new dawn. The crowd roared, and Ryan's chest tightened. He didn't know what was real anymore. Weeks later, a package arrived at his old apartment, now abandoned. Inside was the recorder, a single file loaded. He played it, hands trembling. His own voice crackled through. They're not human. Patel. Trump. Then static, and a new voice, Patel's. You're one of us now, Kessler. Welcome to the army. The tape ended, and Ryan stared at the sky, where clouds twisted into spirals, just like the ones he'd seen that night. The hum was back, and this time, it felt like home.